Jodie, why did you want to be part of Marchlands?
I think the thing with it, when I auditioned, I was just so blown away by how ambitious the piece was. And I think when James in the audition said, have you got any questions? I went, yeah, how are you going to do this? I couldn't get my head around how they were literally from scene to scene cut into different decades and still, you know, keep a really great pace on it, but obviously leave enough time for the audience to, you know, to keep up with all the information they're being supplied with in especially the first 2 episodes. So I just thought it's really brave and it's really different in that sense to anything else I'd read at that time. And Ruth isn't a character I think I've particularly played before, and it's quite a scary part to take on board because I'm not a mother and I'm playing, you know, a bereaved mother, and that's a huge kind of undertaking. You know, you absolutely have to be respectful in I think in your process and the way you do your work, so that in no way does it ever want to feel, you know, in any performed or something, you know. But it read brilliantly, and also they were very clever. They only gave us the first 2 episodes for the audition, so it did make, I was like, well, what happens? And they were very loath to tell you, just in case they didn't give you the part and they didn't want people knowing. So I found it, just from reading, even when you're reading every part, I found it so engrossing.
Bit of a page turner.
Yeah, it is really, because you are given enough ins and enough hooks to keep you interested without, you know, nothing is spelt out, and I think it's great. I think it really challenges an audience, because, you know, sometimes I think we're treated slightly like we're a bit thick as audience members, and that we need things incredibly, you know, laid out on a plate so that we'll get it. And I think Marchlands is quite a challenge. You know, you've really got to keep up with characters and relationships, but I think it's brilliant, you know, for that.
Just tell me about your character Ruth, and you know, the big thing about Marchlands, yes, it's the supernatural and spooky element, but it's a relationship drama.
Yeah.
And it's about how children affect families.
Yeah.
So tell me about your character in relation to that.
Well, my character, before the story starts, 6 months previously, loses her 8-year-old daughter in a, as far as I'm concerned, a suspicious drowning incident. And but we live in a kind of traditional environment in the 60s, that we live with my in-laws and my husband, who's their son, and it's a very claustrophobic environment because my character is absolutely in a completely different grieving place than the rest of the family, and I feel in a way that my character feels that they've slightly dealt with it, but it's not the case. They're just trying to get on with life and not forget, but just to try and get up and go to work, whereas it's as if Ruth has hit the groove in the CD and like it literally is hitting a wall, and you know, on repeat the whole time. This moment that's shattered her life, she cannot accept, because she feels like there's too many unanswered questions, which, you know, what a thing anyway to lose a child, but then to lose a child and it not be 100% explained, and there to be, as far as she's concerned, huge cracks in the story. It's just so frustrating, and you know, it leaves her in a place of continuous mourning, which it would be anyway, but without any kind of process of moving on, and it makes their marriage, you know, there's a lot of pressure on that because they're dealing with it in completely different ways. It's not that they don't love each other anymore, it's just that when communication breaks down, and that's the key to anything. And I think this piece is great because it has a supernatural element in the 60s, in the 80s and the modern, but in ours it's about family, and it's about, you know, how people cope with certain tragedies. So then when we saw it, and then there's the whole, like, you know, supernatural element, you forget, because we weren't in that world when we were filming, and that's very much part of the 80s and the modern storyline. So I think it's so interesting because it completely crosses time and also has so many different elements that make it the 5-part drama.
Anne Reid is playing the older Ruth.
Yeah.
Did you get together about mannerisms?
Yeah, absolutely, we did, because it was much harder for Anne than it was for me, because I did the first 2.5 weeks of filming, so I essentially set in stone what we were going to do. But we just talked a lot about energy, and about how, I suppose in that sense, that when something goes unanswered, and do you want me to pause for the drill?
You turn the camera on again, it'll start again.
Yeah, okay. Myself and Anne, we talked a lot about energy and things, that how when there's this energy that you don't know what to do with it, because it's always there fizzing away because you have this huge unanswered question for your entire life, and it's like you can't quite relax ever. You can't just sit down and switch off because there's just this thing, this knot that'll always be there. And because there's such a huge ... to the story as well, we don't have any conclusive information. We wanted to kind of, without hamming it and in any way kind of upstaging a scene that was more about the dialogue obviously than physically what we were doing, we wanted to do things, you know, with hands and get similar gestures, because obviously, you know, if I saw footage of myself 10 years ago, my gestures would be completely different. But there are elements of yourself, I think, from being an adult to, you know, from, you know, my footage of my mum when she's 30 to now, there's still certain things she does that are very similar, and I think it's always in hands. People's hands give them away, and we wanted to do stuff to do with like nails and that kind of pressure and slightly fidgety. But that was all her way, because we had the rehearsal and we talked about it, and it was, you know, we worked together on it. And then essentially I then filmed, and poor Anne had to sit through however many hours of my rushes.
But you've got the essence. You've both got the
Absolutely.
essence of Ruth. And let's talk about where you're from, because, you know, you've got the Yorkshire accent. Loads of other Southerners, we know, were trying to do the Yorkshire accent.
Yeah, and we're incredibly successful.
Were you helping them at all?
No, I didn't need to, because I mean, Dennis was doing his natural accent and I was doing my natural accent, so we were fine. But Jamie and Tessa, obviously in my scenes, were doing a northern accent, and I'd completely forget that wasn't their natural dialect, because it appeared to come to them so naturally. But then there would be the odd time where maybe Tessa would go, "Am I saying that right?" And I'd be like, "Oh my God, yeah, you're doing a different accent. Yeah, you are." And there's never any reason, but it's quite nice, because when I did a piece called Royal Wedding, it's set in the valleys in Wales. Me and Darren Boyd, we played husband and wife, and our daughter in it, who's a wonderful actress called Gwyneth Keyworth, was from Wales, and we weren't. Every line, "Can you say this line to me, please?" So the poor girl was literally.
She was your voice coach.
Oh, she was a voice coach on it. She was, and you know, we'd like say a line and then kind of look at her in the scene like, "Did I do that right?" You know, panic in the eyes.
Got to quickly talk to you about Venus. I mean, that was really groundbreaking for you and really launched
an
you.
amazing opportunity, one that I'll never forget, and I'll continue to be grateful for that forever, because I've worked and done the jobs that I've done purely because Roger gave me that break. And
Peter O'Toole, Leslie Phillips.
Seen them all.
I know. You lucky girl.
I know. But it was terrifying, but it was amazing.
And you're on the night watch now?
I've just finished.
Have you? How's it gone?
It was wonderful, and it was so wonderful to work with so many lovely actresses, and you know, and to be in a very feminine piece written by a great scriptwriter and a great, obviously based on the Sarah Waters novel. So. And an amazing director, so it was brilliant. And I had they dyed my hair all bright fiery red, and great red lipstick, great costumes, so it was lovely. And I think it'll be a wonderful piece. It's really
when are you
exciting.
See it?
I don't know, I'm the last person to find that out. How would I know? I didn't even know this was going on until they told me today that it goes out in February. Right, it goes out in February? Rubbish.